Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joel Madden, and this is Artist Friendly. And on today's episode, I'm talking to Sebastian from Bad Omens, one of my favorite bands. I'm really excited to talk to him. Really excited to hear about his process in making records and Bad Omens, where they're at and where they're going. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let's get into it. What's up, Noah? How you doing, Dan?
Good, man.
Thanks for coming.
Dude, thanks for having me.
How's it going?
It's really good. I love this rig. I love this setup. It's a dope backdrop.
Thanks, man. We're it's cool. I like it feeling a little bit like, it's kind of like home a little bit. It feels like my office at home feels a little bit like this. But
how long have you been doing this? It's kind of new, right?
It's kind of new in the beginning of the year, like January. Mm-hmm. So we've been doing it for half a year or more.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's good.
That's awesome.
I'm really excited to talk to you. Bad Omens is one of my favorite bands. I think you guys are one of the best modern bands.
Thank you.
Out there. That's actually doing, I think that you guys hold a place in heavy music and in rock music in general, not just heavy music, but rock as a total kind of category of music. But I think that you guys, where you may get grouped in with heavy music, I think you guys are just an incredible rock band.
Well, yeah, like rock is like evolving.
Yeah.
It's really evolving right now. I feel like it's getting more mainstream again, like the way it was in like the early 2000s.
And what might have used to been considered heavy now is more accepted. It's like a mainstream.
Yeah.
That more people can tolerate heavier music than they used to. Because I think when you think about heavy music back in the day, so right. Certainly when I was in the 90s coming up, when I first was forming my like relationship with rock music, heavier music was really kind of pushed into one category.
Right.
And now it feels like there's less genres and more just like, you guys are a rock band, you make heavy music, but it's not all heavy. There's a lot of melody in your music. There's a lot of songwriting.
Yeah.
I know you're a very experienced songwriter. The songs are good.
Yeah. That's
they're
important.
Good songs. Structurally, they're like good songs.
Yeah, it's really hard to find that balance of like trying to make something that feels like it was written by like a professional songwriter without it feeling like commercial or like copy and pasted or just manufactured, while like still having that emotion or realness and like also like experimentation as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I draw influence from, just a lot of like abstract artists that are kind of under the radar, or alternative artists, versus like something you would hear on the radio or at the grocery store. But yeah, no, I think that's my favorite part about making rock music is like being a part of whatever its history is, like in the future. Like today is going to be the history of rock at some point.
Yeah, you're authoring a legacy.
Yeah, and I don't think I realized that until recently, and I take a lot of pride in that. Like especially with like the success of this album and just seeing like how quickly it's been happening since The Death of Peace of Mind came out.
But so I hear the word quickly, and to me, I'm careful with that word.
Yeah. Because
it feels like it minimizes what I think is, this is your third album and it's a lifetime of work.
Yeah.
So it's a lifetime of living and a lifetime of writing these songs and trying. Mm-hmm. Now, the quickness of it is maybe how quickly it tips.
Right.
But the roots of what you guys have done, in my opinion, as a fan and as someone who's gotten to be close to it, and see you guys do it. So there's a lot of things I think to point out, and that's what I do. I like to analyze things.
Yeah, me too.
I like to figure out how people did what they do.
That's like my greatest weakness and my greatest strength.
Overanalyzing.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah,
my family gets really tired of it. But it's important. Because anyone out there that's listening to this right now likely is building something of their own, whether it's a band or they're a songwriter or a producer, or they're just building a business, or they're just trying to build a life.
Yeah.
These are metaphors for everything we do. How we do one thing, we do all things, right? Like, so when I look at you guys as a band, live, incredible, music is good. Now, if I look at you guys as an organization, people that are working together to achieve a common goal, in an organized way, that's what you have to do to succeed, in my opinion. So a lot of bands, like, if they say they're not doing that, they are doing it. They just don't want to accept they're doing it. And if they didn't care about success, they wouldn't do it. So if we want to grow, we want to have some success.
Yeah, of course.
Our versions of that success will be different. But so you left home at a young age. How old were you? 17, 16?
I feel like 15.
15. Okay, really young.
Probably, yeah.
It was crazy. I have a 15-year-old. When I think about that's crazy.
Yeah, I was on my own at 15. I bounced back every now and then when it was like convenient, or I was like I needed it, or my friends' parents like were like, okay, you've been here a while.
Because I left home a few years later than that, but at a young age, you know, and again in a time when there was no iPhones, it wasn't easy to move through the world. It was just like literally like hitchhiking and finding rides and doing.
It feels like just as dangerous, you know, just as risky as it is convenient. Yeah, like a teenager now with the iPhone probably have an easier time being independent, but also
easier time getting
much
tricked.
Risk, getting kidnapped or something.
Yeah, getting catfished or getting tricked or
you know getting. What? I thought the other day about this. It was interesting. I remember when I was in school and stuff, and like I feel like I came up around the time the internet was starting to get normalized, like MySpace and stuff. Social media
was
more
a definite time.
And I feel like a lot of people were talking about internet safety back then, and like security and internet privacy and stuff. Like in school, and your like parents and everyone, like people were afraid to put their credit cards on the internet.
Yeah.
And
now it's like,
I don't know if that, I mean, I don't have any, I'm not in high school now, but like, I wonder if that's still a thing. Like you have a kid, you have kids.
So it is a thing.
Are they still even like thinking about that?
They are, but this is how kids are too smart now.
Yeah.
So they know already the danger.
Yeah.
They're already aware of it. Like there are the cases where people say this kid there's no doubt that there are predators out there and they are trying to talk to your kids. No doubt.
Right.
What I'm saying is that the kids have grown up with this. They understand this. They know.
They're smarter than the adults.
There's most of the time. Yeah. Like, and you always say it as a parent, and they're always like, it's the idea that like your parent is going to tell you something, and you as a teenager are going to listen and go, boy, they really are wise. They really know.
Not going to happen.
My mom and dad are so wise. They always give me the best advice. I take it to heart. Their teenagers are completely blocked. Mm-hmm. Their sensibility sometimes is completely blocked by like the hormones and whatever else they're going through. And I think they're experiencing the world. And the thing that I think, not to get into parenting, I think the best thing we can do is create a stable environment, a safe environment of support, and give them as much information as we can. Talk to them, and they don't want to hear it, but you talk to them. You go, listen, I know you don't want to hear it. I need to understand that you understand the risk and the dangers of like social media, the internet, the things that you're doing, right? And because you're not going to stop them. This is no way, shape, and form. Once you get 15, I would even say now or earlier, probably 13, 14. You can hold out, and you should try. I think parenting wise, you should try to hold out as long as you can. And maybe some people will have the anomaly of the kid who's like, I don't do social media. That sounds like a great kid. But from my experience, all the kids.
That's a double-edged sword too, right? Because I'm sure you don't want to be an outlier. You don't want to be the weirdo in your school that doesn't have Instagram.
Yeah, I think so too. But I would love it if
right.
if I was like it. I'd be like, great.
Yeah,
you're this. But. I think you communicate and you talk as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And even if they don't want to answer, you ask and you go, how's it going? You know, how's things? And you ask about certain things and it can be you got to break that uncomfortable ice by not judging their answers and not like just kind of hearing them out. Anyways, so kids, but to bad omens.
Yeah, sure.
You leave home early. And so I did too. That kind of says home life wasn't completely stable.
No, I think it was my grandpa passing away when I was, I believe I was 14-ish. Because then, you know,
big moment.
Even like obviously as a teenager, I didn't know anything about life, and I don't now. And I feel like in 10 years, I'll feel the same way. And I think that's great. But, I had enough self-awareness to know I didn't want to like be a rambunctious hormonal, you know, teenager and put that on my grandma to deal with by herself. Cause I mean, they're old people, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't like being at home either with my mom. So I was just always out with my friend, and all my friends were older, you know, even like when I was playing in bands in and out, like playing guitar in bands growing up, like everyone was older and in their early 20s or late 20s. and I was just like the teenager in the band playing guitar. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, I was just talking to my therapist about this, but I feel like that like lack of stability as a kid pushed me to design it for myself now as an adult. And like now I love my house. Like it's not, a crazy house by any means, but I live with my closest friends and I like just got a dope couch and it's just like my comfortable, like I make it a comfortable place. I'm excited to be, especially going on tour.
But you design it.
Yeah.
You control.
Yeah. Like I wanted to make the life I wanted to live, the lifestyle I wanted to live, and like the comfort that I maybe yearned for as a kid, that like security, that I never probably experienced, at least subconsciously. And
It's interesting.
yeah, so now when I'm so like appreciative of my house,
Right.
especially again going on tour, even if you didn't have my childhood, I feel like if you tour a lot, or you travel half the year, more than half the year, you get home and you're so stoked to be home.
It's such a nice feeling to be in one place.
So when I get home, like on top of that, having like a great place to be that's comfortable with people I like living with, I just kind of bask in it. Like I get up in the morning and I sit outside in the sun and I'm just like, this is awesome, And it's so simple.
I feel the same way. I spent so many years touring, and now there's never a day where I don't wake up in my house and feel like, I don't know. It's hard to explain that feeling. I also think growing up with a lot of insecurity, whether it was financial or whatever it was, does make you appreciate like a stability in your home, like, and knowing you don't ever have to move.
Yeah.
But there's never a day I don't wake up in my house and just go like, yeah, this is great. I love being here.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the finishes.
Right. Materialistic stuff.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a nice house. My wife has got a real good taste, and she makes those decisions, and I love it because I don't have to, because I am not good at picking things most of the time. I can pick some things, but she has a real way of bringing it all together. But I wake up and I'm just like really happy. I just feel like I'm on vacation every day when I wake up. But I wonder if, and maybe you've talked about this and analyzed this in therapy or something, do you think that the back and forth, right, going between two houses, maybe feeling like you don't completely fit in completely with either place, right? There's probably things you appreciate about both and things you like. So that's how I feel about. Do you think that's why you're a bit of a control freak over?
Oh yeah,
the sound and the and the like the details.
Absolutely.
Which I think people who are really detail oriented and really that perform at a high level doing anything have to be enough of a control freak that they want to be good at it.
Yeah. I was actually talking to my therapist about this too. I hate the idea that you have to like suffer to get good at something or to get disciplined at something or to be good at something out of fear.
And I don't agree with it either. Like I agree, I know what you're saying, and I think that's what we're always told, that if you're to get good, it's really hard. You have to
persevere. You
beat
have to
yourself
adversity.
senseless to get good. Like, what if you're inclined to be good and you get good fast?
Yeah. I'm sure that exists for some people, for some fortunate people,
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's I guess that's the positive way to look at it when you're reflecting on like the harder parts of your life or tragedy or whatever it is that's like kind of thickened your skin or forced you to adapt in some way or another or survive, is looking at where I've gotten and where I hope to be, because that's like the biggest thing I'm trying to work on, is like my constant fear and anxiety of like the temporariness of it. Temporarity. I don't know what the
I don't know, or that it's fleeting.
Yeah, exactly. The fleetingness of it. Like music and entertainment in general, I feel like is so finicky, and like people go through phases and seasons, and people so quickly lose interest. And then there's like,
I totally.
I hate that I'm concerned about that, because I make music for me. That's why I like That the Peace of Mind was so weird, and like I love it, and the new stuff that I'm working on.
I mean, Death of Peace of Mind, I've easily played that record. every
me to
track
count.
back to back. I'm trying to see how many times I've listened to that record hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Hundreds of times, if not more. Like I've listened to that. There are days where I've listened to that record 4 times all the way through.
Crazy.
It's one of the best rock records I've heard in the last 10 years.
That's so flattering.
It's just true, dude.
I'm bad
mean,
at taking compliments, but I appreciate it.
I mean, honestly though, it's a compliment, but it's not even a compliment. It's not. There's just not these days. It's as a person who's been around long enough, and you know, I'm not saying they don't make them like they used to,
Right.
but they don't. There's sometimes you hear a record and there's a lot of throwaway on it. There's a lot of filler with like, let's just bang some singles because we live in a singles world. And this is one of the first records I've heard in a long time where all my favorite rock bands make records. They make albums. And I still want to listen to an album. I want to put a record on, and whether I'm running or driving or doing whatever. And so it's a body of work that feels like someone cared about every part of it.
Yeah.
And hearing you talk about your tendencies helps me understand actually, like, oh, now I know why the whole record's good. The details were toiled over.
So, dude, yeah, it drives me nuts sometimes. Like I think it's like a quote, like Einstein or something, like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah.
That's how I work in the studio.
Right.
Like we have this song that we just finished, for the most part finished, like the demo is finished.
New song?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Working on 2 albums right now.
2 albums.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you produce
Yeah.
the whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Me and Jolly.
And you guys write everything?
Yeah.
That's the other part that's fucking crazy to me is I wrote with you, so I know you're good writers because I wrote with you. And we did that song last December together.
Yep.
And it's one of my favorite songs we've ever done. I feel like it's like a gem that fans get to discover. And it's just really special. And it actually, we got to be in the studio together and work on something in fashion that I think was meaningful to us at a time when we needed it for very personal reasons. But like you guys were very instrumental in helping us bring something to life that we needed at a time when I don't know that we had the energy creatively because it was a weird time to create something on our own. And you guys you guys are just great writers, just brilliant. Like I was really impressed. But I knew you were good. But like when I got in with you, I was like, oh damn, they are really good. They're like, me and Bench talked about it at length about like why we thought your band was so good. And yes, you guys are great live, but like you guys produce, write, perform, record all the music, and then have to A&R your record. You have to like sit there and decide, when is this done? What's going where? I'm just saying, most people have to bring a team together because it's too much and they'll never. But what I notice with all my favorite artists, a large part of them are similar to you guys. Like they paint the whole thing. And that's
like a vision, the whole thing.
It's kind of crazy, dude. Not a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of good people.
Well, it's fun too. Like it's exhausting. It's a lot of work, like wearing 6 hats at all times, but it's fun. Like, cause I look at Bad Omens as like, it's like its own little world in my head,
right.
You know, whether it's the music videos or the album art or the merch or the music, the most important thing, like I try to make it all connect in some way that at least makes sense to me so that when I'm talking about it, it's like authentic passion and it's genuine. And like I think people can detect that. Like people, no matter how filtered things get through the internet or like through word of mouth or just biased, I think people can always like recognize genuine authenticity. And I think it's huge.
But it's also really good. Like from a quality standpoint.
Yeah.
Like you guys, if you wanted to just produce records for bands, you would make great records.
It's funny because I wanted to do that for a long time, and like we just didn't have, I guess, the clout or whatever it was. And now like people are hitting me up nonstop, and I don't have the time.
You don't have the time because you have to tour
to worry about. You know,
you're like,
well, we're not touring. We're working on Bad Omen stuff.
Yeah, I mean that, and that's what you should be doing.
Yeah,
because it's a really important, to me, it's a really important band. And, I think that it's great you guys are getting some recognition now. And certainly the music is succeeding on its own because it's good. So as I say, like, go see them live. Just go see them live. That's what I always say. If you want to like understand the Bad Omens,
Yeah.
hype, whatever you want to call it, go see them live. You'll understand it immediately. When you go see them live, you'll understand exactly why we love this band. And I think people do when they see you live. And I think that's why the shows are just exploding, because it's like you couldn't play enough shows right now.
Right.
Because
to meet the demand.
There's not a ton of great live bands out there. Because I think it's, again, like, we came out of a time where not a ton of bands had the opportunity. There was certainly there's always been bands working and but like not thriving like it used to be, maybe. But it feels like it does feel like it's coming back around, but I feel like you guys are part of that. I feel like there's pillars in music that lead the way for other bands to thrive. That's why I like it when bands work together and bands stick together, because if you guys succeed, it means that more people can succeed behind you.
I think I'm starting to agree with that. It's hard to like be modest, but also be like, yeah, I recognize that. But it's becoming kind of like undeniable the more people I talk to, and the more people I talk to that I look up to or admire, like you know, that are also saying that. I'm like, okay, maybe there's some truth to this, like maybe they're not just blowing smoke up my ass. But it's a hard thing to accept that like you're like part of that, part of like whatever the new wave is of influential music or whatever.
I totally get it, not wanting to own your part in what I think is like the important success of say like rock music, right?
Right.
You don't want to own your part in it, because I get it. It could come across like it's not modest, but you guys are modest. You guys are trying, you wrestle with success just like everyone else who actually has values. I think we all wrestle with people admiring us, or people following us, or people maybe treating us different than they did, however you want to call the fame thing, because that's all it is like, attention around the thing because you're doing art. But then what happens when it comes with it, when the art connects with lots of people and a lot of people can resonate with it? Fame. So fame is just a funny thing, man. It's a double-edged sword. Like, there's some good aspects of it. You get to, something becomes more well known and more people come see it. Therefore, you can play more shows, you can make more records, you can do all the things you love. It definitely enables, and it's just like a big ball of confusion sometimes. But at the end, in the middle of that, I think is this quiet space where you're doing what you love, and you're making what I think are really important records, and doing really important shows.
Yeah.
Right.
I think people are inherent problem solvers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people, if there isn't a problem to solve or like a puzzle to solve, they'll create one just for the reward of solving it. And I think that's where like being creative or art is so important, because there's people that don't have that as an outlet that will maybe create problems in other ways, like, little micro dramas or something, or my ex-boyfriend, or, like just anything. But then you have the creative outlet to like channel that, like primitive desire to like put the circle in the circle and the triangle in the triangle, and it's like, I think it's crucial to your mental health, just like exercising maybe, it's like the same thing just with your mind, or meditating. Yeah. So like,
you meditate?
I do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. It's trying to get better at doing it consistently, which like the past few weeks I have been doing it every day, which is nice. And that's helped. But like
they say not to judge.
It's a priority to like, if I just feel anxious or I wake up just on the wrong side of the bed, or I'm stressed about all the stuff I have to do that day, I'll just lay back down. I have this app, Calm app.
Yeah, it's great. I have it too.
Yeah,
I'm not, and breathe.
We're not endorsed by them.
No, we're not. We have
I pay for it.
This we have no sponsors here at all. Like, this is
it's just the first one I found that had good reviews.
Fuck with.
Yeah, and I put it on and do like the Daily J, or one of those like, meditative 7-minute things with the breathing, and
it's great.
It's just like, it recenters you. I think people that are like, I apprehensive about like meditation or spirituality.
Weird. I don't know why.
I think they take it more literal than it is.
Like it could be some kind of voodoo.
Yeah, or like they think people take it more literal than they do.
Right.
You know, like it's not that deep. It's just, it's no different than like if you're having a
Close your
panic
eyes.
attack or hyperventilating, you're supposed to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, into a bag. Like it's no different than that. It's the same, like I think, physical response of just calming yourself down and working on your breathing and, you know.
And there's straight up like data to prove that it helps.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. I think data is real. Like information's real. Like there is a real thing. There is real information to back things up.
People are
But, like,
selective with that though.
yeah, people are. People
People
and
are
they
selective with science.
yeah, it is. It's interesting but I'm sure a lot of people out there listening, and probably a lot of people that listen to your music, like myself, have dealt with anxiety issues, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not uncommon. That's the other thing I tell people all the time. I'm like, it's okay to share that you have anxiety and that you're learning how to manage it and learning how to deal with it, because there's dealing with it and then there's going into trying to heal some of it. And some of it I think you can heal. I think it's probably from trauma and different, the past experiences you had. But like some of it is, some people are prone. They just have a more careful, their personality type is prone to anxiety. So some of it you do have to just learn how to manage. And meditation's one way.
Well, touring is such a high paced environment. So like that adds a whole other layer of,
Stress.
like trying to adapt to something that even without someone without anxiety, a perfectly healthy, mentally healthy person has trouble adapting with, like being in a different city every night or sleeping in a difficult position or jet lag, or like then you add anxiety onto that.
Not a regular diet, no kind of stability.
Yeah, because routine I think is important.
Yeah,
for
routine.
anyone, and it breaks that. And especially if you're like fighting off the demons, the anxiety, going on tour makes that even harder. And there's been times where I've been like, I probably should not be touring right now, but I just
you work through it.
Yeah, I just push through it. And maybe that's not the right call sometimes. Like I feel like I have a good judgment of like, okay, this is enough to manage, or like I actually should go home.
But it's a little bit of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you sacrifice your well-being.
Yeah, because you don't want to get lost in the idea of like every time I feel bad, I have to like take a day off, because you're gonna just feed it.
It could be a cycle that's really hard to stop.
Yeah.
I think that like you're right. I think another thing people don't understand, I think when you're out there doing 5-6 shows in a row, right? In a different city every night, like I think everyone looks at it and goes, wow, that must be nice. You'd be on stage and there's all these people, or like it's like a party or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's actually a physical job. It's super physical. Like I have straight up injuries from touring, all the years of touring. Like your body gets beat up. And like I'm now getting, for the first time in my life, getting things fixed that like I've never ever had looked at, that were like injuries from tour. They're just like, there was a bunch of years where we did 300 shows a year for many years. And
that's nuts.
It was just nuts. It was nuts. It was a physical grind. And like we all have things like tics and physical injuries and different things from those hardcore years.
I'm trying to get better at not getting used to them. I think that's something people do, that especially people that like work hard or take things serious or are disciplined, like you just accept things as they are, whether it's like anxiety or like an ache in your back or something from sleeping weird, or some kind of a rock in your shoe, so to speak. Like you just get used to it
and you accept it,
instead of thinking like maybe like, for example, I wake up congested every day, like dry and like just so stuffed up, and it's the worst. I hate waking up because I just am like messed up, congested and sinus wise, and it takes like my body like an hour to reset. I went to my doctor and just asked him about it, and they like gave me this like daily allergy medicine that just like you're supposed to take every day, that helps build your system or whatever, to help prevent that in the morning. And
did it work?
It started helping a little bit.
Great. And
I lived like that for like my whole life, like 10 years,
I think I did too. And
I'm just like, this is just how I am. And
you're the first person that I've actually said that where I was like, oh yeah, that's
especially things that are like just on the edge of being serious enough, like they're more inconvenient or uncomfortable, and you just get used to being uncomfortable, So I'm trying to get better identifying things that are uncomfortable to me, that I just get used to, that maybe could be fixed, or at least get a hey, that can't be fixed. You got to deal with it. You know, even that. And I'm just trying to like identify those things more because I'm like, wow, I lived uncomfortably for so long.
Dude, that's crazy.
You know?
I always wait until I have to. I didn't
Yeah,
think about it. Like I had
I do too. Until
I
recently.
hate sharing. I hate getting too personal, but I ask pretty personal questions. So, but I, I had to get, I have a hernia that I got on tour that I never fixed.
That's serious.
That I
Hernias are.
just like got it from touring, jumping off a riser enough times.
Yeah.
And I jumped off one that was too high. When I remember when I'm injured, it was 12, 13, 14 years ago. It was a long time ago. Um, and, and then I felt injured. I got injured. And then I went and that a doctor was like, "Oh, it's a hernia, but like you don't, it should be okay in a few days, and then you need to get this fixed." But typically, people get them fixed in 10 years to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and sometimes whatever. And I was like, okay. And then every now and then I would be on stage and I would do something that would activate it, aggravate it, and I would be like, oh,
Probably messed up the rest of your
oh
show
my
too.
God. Like, and then, yeah, and then I'd limp through the show.
Yeah.
And then, and now I have to get it like fixed. And I was like, why did I wait so long to fix
You get
this
used
thing
to
that's
being
nagged
uncomfortable.
me since I had it? It's
Yeah.
nagging. Like, I could only play like a sport if I go to like play basketball with my kid or go play tennis with my wife or whatever. You name a physical activity, I could only do it to a certain point. So like for an hour, and then it would act up and it would be like, oh, okay, I got to tap out. Um, Going on a hike, I could only do like 3 miles versus 5 miles because it would act up and it would limit me. And I just dealt it. I
You
was
just
just like,
accepted it.
I didn't even think about fixing it.
Yeah.
I was just
You
like,
didn't even,
oh
you didn't
yeah,
even register that was a possibility.
there it is. I
You're
got to
just
stop
like,
now.
that's
Instead
just
of like,
who I am, I guess.
and then my doctor was like, we can get
Yeah, we
surgery on
could
that.
work on it. Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
I think a lot of people deal with that. A lot of people just accept like discomfort or
Self-love, man.
inconvenience. Yeah, it's huge.
Self-care. Self-care is important.
Yeah.
You think about it and everyone has their own version of taking care of themselves, but like self-care is like a real thing. And I think people think of it as like taking a day off, but like it's a little more detailed than that. It is actually taking care of things.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to that thing we were saying about balance. Like you can't overdo it. You can't just decide, oh, I'm really anxious today. I'm going to sit in bed all day, every day.
Right.
Like eventually you have to fight. Some days you have to let it win and just eat ice cream and sit on the couch and binge Breaking Bad or something.
Right.
And then there's days you have to be like, I have to fight this. I have to go to the gym and like, I have to try a different way to stave this off.
Do you do like jujitsu and Muay Thai and things like that?
Yeah, I actually haven't done jujitsu in months. I just haven't had time, but I have a trainer I do Muay Thai with and like body weight stuff and weightlifting and just a personal trainer that I see 3 or 4 times a week.
Is that a key for you?
It's like the one thing I am committed to making time for me
Right.
outside of making music, which again, that's a win-win, because for me, fun is like sitting in the studio with my friends making music. And that's, as you obviously know, like a huge return. If you're up till 3 a.m. writing a song, that's gonna, pay your bills for years.
And it feels really good.
It's a very small price to
when
pay.
you're done, it feels really good.
It does.
It's like a
It
feeling
does.
that's hard to explain.
Yeah. But the only thing outside of that I really prioritize doing for myself is just going to see my trainer or going to the gym or going on a run or going to a Muay Thai class or jiu-jitsu class. Like that's something that I've found is like so important and also changed the game for me as a singer,
Right.
because I feel like something clicked in 2021 with our band, at least with me as my performance, where I just got way more into cardio and taking care of my voice and rehearsing harder and longer before tours, and it improved my voice immensely. And it's like giving credit to my band while taking credit away from them, but I feel like that was a huge part of what improved our live show was me becoming a better singer because they were already all great at their instruments, in my opinion. Maybe they probably self-critique and would say otherwise, but
Right.
I think they were always really solid, and I was the weight, and And then 2021, I really started feeling
That's crazy to hear
coming
you
into
say
my own
that.
skin as a singer and feeling more confident and more talented as a singer, and just like being on tours and being like, I'm one of the best singers, like on this tour or something, and like just feeling good about myself as a
Right.
singer, which I never did. I was always beating myself up or insecure about my performance on tour. But there was other aspects of that. Like we were in a van, I would drive overnight. I didn't sleep, or I slept uncomfortably. My neck was messed up, or I wasn't taking care of my voice, or it's just, again, it's an experience thing, like we talked about at the start of this. Like those are things you learn and either let get the best of you or you beat as you move through your career performing. Whether if you blow up overnight, you might have a really tough first tour if you've never gone on tour before as a
Right.
singer, like it's be really difficult for you.
It'd be hard for you to handle the little problems that always
Yeah.
come up.
'Cause
There's
you-
always going to be little kinks,
Yeah.
little things that happen.
Even just like knowing your body and knowing like what maybe foods or drinks tire out your voice or something, like just simple stuff like that you have to do for years to identify and make sure not to do in your job.
And then to be able to execute a show with all the little things that go wrong all the time, like things always go wrong.
Always.
Something always drops out. Something always that cuts out.
Yeah.
The experience helps you navigate those where the audience can't tell that you're having lots of problems up there on the nights you are. And
Yeah.
that's part of experience. That's what an experienced person does. They move through things and they don't get caught up on like, why is this happening? Instead of like, hey, let's solve it really quickly and let's get this over with. Let's get this show on the road. But it's interesting because I would have said that I always thought you were an incredible singer. So I personally think that you're extremely hard on yourself and that you're a perfectionist who works hard to be the best, which I think is really good. I think wherever that comes from is driven you to, I think it's a part of your character that drives you towards progress and success and to achieve things together as a group. I think you guys in general as a group have a mind towards building things and making things the way you see them. And I think part of the architecture of that is someone who's detail oriented, who's very hard on things, very hard on the details. And so I think it's a good thing, even though I would say my experience of you as a singer has always been like, whoa, he's one of the best fucking guys. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
So I think that there is growth and I think that I would say a lot of that stuff that you do that makes you feel like you're taking care of your voice and you're navigating things, it does matter.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's a placebo or if it's real.
I think that's a big part of it too.
Right?
I think a lot of it's psychological.
I do. I think it's because that's what gets us in place to do what we do. But my experience as a fan watching you through the certainly the last record and this record, my experience of you as a singer has not changed as far as like, oh, he's gotten better. You've always been one of the best guys in the room in that regard. Maybe not in your head, maybe that's experience, and yes, if you want to attribute it to how you take care of your voice and the things you do, fine with me.
Yeah.
Because I just want you to keep singing. But I'm just saying from my experience of you, seeing you, hearing your music, and the conversations I've had with Benj about your music from the very beginning when we met, has always been he's one of the best singers in rock music today. You guys are easily in my top 10 artists.
Crazy.
And it's crazy because you're only 3 records in.
Yeah.
And I say only, and it's like, I don't even know if only is the right word. 3 records is a lot of work, but you're just getting started. Like, I cannot wait for the next record. I can't wait for the next.
Me either.
And you guys are making 2 records?
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe this is when we'll premiere it or talk about it, or you can cut it.
We can cut this because I think it's going to come out sooner. When are you guys going to be talking about this stuff? Not a long time?
We're working on Concrete Forever, which is essentially the deluxe.
Right. Okay. That's one thing.
Yeah. And then in the middle of working on that, when we're bored of that, we're working on music that we're considering album for music.
Okay, great.
So kind of, yeah, in a way working on 2 records in one. And then like some stripped down remixes, stuff like that.
Sick.
And it's just cooler than calling it deluxe. So we're calling it Concrete Forever, like the tour. And then, yeah, we're working on new music too. So
That's exciting.
yeah.
It's crazy.
I think you could air it. I think you should air it
Okay, great. Well, we'll announce it here, and that's great. So,
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows we're working on a deluxe,
right.
And I think everyone knows we're always writing new music when we can. So it's like, is
Yeah.
that really a secret? You know?
No, it's not a secret.
Yeah.
When does that deluxe get announced?
I think as soon as we have like most of it ready.
Okay.
I think we have like 3 remixes that we're happy with. We got 3 originals that we want to again have the features of the collaborations on. And then from there, I want to do like some stripped down versions and just try to get as much done as we can by the end of the year. But yeah, it's important to me not to rush anything, you know?
No need to.
It's going to be transparent if it's rushed.
Yeah.
So that's always a priority. Even if it takes me a year or 3 years, I'm going to make the best album first.
How do you feel about Bad Omens from where you started to now? Do you feel like the band is in the best place it's ever been?
Absolutely. I mean, not just musically or like with, having more fans or anything like that, or, getting bigger tours, but just as people,
Right.
And like as creatives and everyone at their job, like we have everyone in our crew is amazing at what they do. That's super important because I feel like it's hard to find crew people that you not only get along with and like as people, but take their job serious and have knowledge and stuff.
It's true.
And then as people in our band, like we're just, I feel like really well adjusted and put together, and just, we take tours so serious. We take it like it's our job. And everything just, it's almost scary. Like how smooth it's going,
but it is a job.
Because I'm inclined, like just from like my youth and stuff, to be like, where is the danger? Like what, you know what I mean? Like
that's how we all are, I think. But I think that when you start to actually normalize, this is a job. Like this isn't a party. This isn't a lottery that we hit. Now let's get on the roller coaster.
You wouldn't show up to your office job hammered.
No, and you wouldn't mistreat people.
Right.
And you wouldn't this is what I think. Successful people are consistent. I look at other people that I think are successful, and how we measure success is different, all of us, right? Some people would say money, some people would say happiness, some people would say maybe a little bit of everything. Balance, to me, it's a balance of having enough of everything to feel contentment every day, to feel like you don't need anything, but I think you're inspired to work for more or to achieve more in certain ways. So like with a career that you love, I think people who love what they do are inspired to do more. But in order to do more, we have to be reliable, because we have to work with people, because we all win in teams. No one wins alone. So you as an artist have to make a record, and then you have to work with a team of people to help you put that record out, go out on tour, and then you're working with your fans to enjoy it. Like your fans are paying their hard-earned money to come to your show, and they're expecting a good show.
Yeah.
And if you were like, who fucking cares? I'm gonna
get
fuck
hammered
around, get hammered, not put on a great job. Exactly.
People don't like that.
It only lasts so long.
Yeah.
Right. And it kind of, and it's very unsustainable as well, health-wise.
It's a balance thing. I really think it all comes back to balance. So like, I'm not even like trying to promote some like meditative spiritual agenda. I just think about how many singers, like without name dropping, obviously, that are talented, amazing singers or drummers or whatever, but they didn't put in the work or the time to understand their business or understand how their money was being handled.
Right.
Or to, try to curb an addiction they were having or something, and how it ultimately led to their downfall.
Yeah, what
you can't just be good at one thing.
Exactly. And like also like what you work on every day is what you'll get. You'll get it out. You'll get out what you put in, as everyone says. You get back, what you put in. What becomes your job becomes your job. If your job becomes being addicted to drugs, that'll be your job. There's all kinds of addiction. There's sex addiction, drugs, there's gambling, there's addiction to all kinds of things. That being said as well, like if your job is the only thing you do, you won't have balance in your life to build, if you want to build a family, or you do have to find balance based on like what's important to you.
And then not even with like addiction, like again, back to the anxiety thing or the depression thing, like that's another battle you need to face if you're trying to take your job serious, like you can't. I talk about that a lot. Like people ask, like, what were you going through writing this song, or like how do you be creative when you're depressed? And I always tell them like the truth, which I I haven't seen it. I'm sure it exists out there, but I don't believe in like the tortured artist, like hung over, like over the piano,
Right.
like
Neither do I.
going through the hardest time of their life and then writes a hit. Like that can never be me. I'm sure that exists, and I guess that's great for them that they could channel that into something, into art. But I have to reflect on my hard emotions and hard times like retroactively.
Well, the sad truth, I
I have to be
think
in a good place to be creative,
I agree with you.
and then talk about it from a healthy place. Even if it's a really sad song, it's like me reflecting on how I felt at that time.
I agree with you, but I also want to be alive.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. I want to like live life. I want to experience what life has to offer. I want to experience joy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be miserable. I want to experience like having a relationship with my kids.
Is it hard as an artist, right, to like not romanticize that and fall into that character of like, separating it?
It's not at my age because I
Right.
feel like I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not, that old. I feel like I've lived a lot of life, and I also feel like I'm not disenchanted, or what's the word? I feel like I'm not disillusioned to what things really are. So you can no longer get me excited about like, oh, do this, you'll be really famous.
Yeah.
I already went on that roller coaster, and I understand it to a place where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Versus let's create something that we think will be really special, or like let's make a classic song. That still excites me. If you were
Right.
like, yo, I'm trying to write a classic, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, you know what I mean? So the lie that it's this like, yeah, he's on drugs, but man, his art's good.
I don't buy it, dude. I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. I think, wow, he's in so much pain,
Yeah.
so his art is good
Yeah.
because he's expressing pain, and we all relate to that because to me the human experience is part pain and suffering. When none of us can escape
Yeah.
the pain of life.
Yeah.
We're going to lose people. We're going to suffer humiliation at some point, or failure at some point, or all of the things that we all go through it. That's why I think it's easy for me not to dislike people, because I feel empathy for everyone. And even if I don't agree with how someone's expressing themselves,
Yeah.
like when we talk about the internet, or we talk about social platforms, we talk about politics, I get a little disappointed in how people express themselves, because I think people we live in a culture of meanness now. But we've been here before. The world has been here at times. But like the lie that you're talking about, like, yeah, his art is so good, but he's on drugs, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't think
Even
so.
if that's a thing, like it can't be a long lasting thing.
Well, that's the thing is it's this lie that is sold to, I think, to young people in our industry to keep them from waking up and becoming
the independent, educated on how they're being ripped off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's an easy way to keep artists corralled and unplugged from reality of how things work. And it's also, I find myself respecting bands more like you guys when I see how you guys run your business. And I go, okay, they are with it. They actually show up every day and they take responsibility for themselves. And like, that's who I want to be. I don't want someone to lie to me and tell me what I want to hear. And I think that we work in an industry where people are manipulated all the time. And artists, I think, are anxious. So I get it. Like, they're easy marks for the drugs and the alcohol and the ways that you can keep people unplugged so they don't have to deal with it. And then you have all these gatekeepers who say, I'll deal with it.
Right.
I'll deal with it. That's the whole mentality behind our company, is to not be that, to be partners, to talk about information and make decisions together with people that feel like you're plugged into your fucking business, and no, you don't need us.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The other thing is, I think in our industry, artists are kind of manipulated to feel like, oh my God, if I don't have that person, everything's going to fall apart. No, the idea about a career is, what version do I want? You do need a team. You do need to build a team of people that you trust, that you respect, but it's about you making decisions and and then having people that you respect around you, like a council of people that are good partners, that you guys can share information and make good decisions versus someone scaring you into going forward all the time. I think our industry is prone to that. I don't think it's everyone. I think there's amazing people out there that I know in the institutional part of the music business that are great. Like, I don't think that all labels are bad and all publishers are bad. I'm not that guy. There's great people.
Well, that's that experience thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
You know? Like, how are you going to have the know-how of like, oh, stay away from this guy or stay away from this agent or whatever, if you don't at least have been in the industry or touring or experienced, you know, like you won't know, and no one, who could blame you for not knowing?
It's like in sports. I do think the best coaches played. I do think they understand how it feels to be out there.
Well, I think that's why we gravitated towards working with you guys.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously you're incredible career. Like, you guys
we did our thing back in the day.
We did our thing, you know, and like we've never had this relationship with people we work with as a band where, like, you know, I just punish Miles all day with like memes, and you know, like sometimes we don't even talk about business, we talk about just life stuff, you know, and like that to me is like that's an awesome relationship to have with the people you work with.
It's important that I think you like the people you work with, but we're all human beings in this industry, with this, especially an industry where you don't need any certification to be a manager. You don't need a certification to work at a label.
Yeah.
So we're talking about music as a top resource in the world. People are consuming music more than they ever have, and artists have more opportunity than they've ever had. But with that comes a lot of bad actors too, that come in and take advantage and move on it. Now, that is the human nature. I'm not saying that any other industry is any different.
No, I think that's just people.
That's a
people thing, you know?
But you have to recognize that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
And I think artists have to try and become as independently minded as they can, so that they can I always say, you are your best manager until you can't be.
No one's going to care more than you.
No one's going to care more than you.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so we can care, but not as much as you.
I think that's why we gravitate towards writing and producing for the most part ourselves, is because, you know, you hear about, I feel like at least a while ago, like maybe it's changed, but you hear about bands being like, oh, we went to this huge producer that's, you know, won all these awards or sold all these records and worked on all these huge records. And you kind of get like, you know, maybe like horse blinders, or like, you know, diluted by all the success that person has, and you equate it with like experience or investment in you because that person had, you know, so much success. But I feel like I found that that's like just their job. And while obviously not every producer is like a bad guy trying to get a check, like it goes back to the no one's going to care more than you thing. So if you have the tools or the means or even the time to educate yourself on how to use the tools and the means, you should be as hands-on as you can. You should co-produce. Like, you should be in the driver's seat of the studio as well at the desk.
If you can do it.
If you can.
Where artists sometimes go wrong is thinking they can do it and they can't yet. They haven't earned the ability. Now you have to be the one to have the guts to listen and go, this isn't good enough. And that's what a true artist does, in my opinion. Versus someone who's like, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to make a decision. You decide.
Or you get pressured by a manager or label to like put it out.
And you stand your ground.
Right.
I don't see you guys ever having that problem. Like, again, because you produce your own shit and you have a vision. But I do think people get spun and they lose their kind of compass, right? Creatively, because they stopped trusting their own instinct a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I think at the point where you're like, I'm not putting this record out. If you've never done that before, it's either a real problem with the record or you're spun out for some reason, and you got to look at, like, you got to stop and go like, wait, why am I so spun? Why can I not feel my compass?
Got to give it a few weeks or something.
Yeah, and you got to go like, what's my gut? Is it saying something? I think that the like artists that double down on how they feel and trusting their gut, like again, maybe this is not your experience. My experience of you guys is you just make gut decisions all the time and you just don't feel that conflicted about it. Is that true?
I think we feel conflicted, but we ask the question of like why,
Right.
and then we reference something like a choice we made in the past that ended up being the right choice.
Right.
And we do that every time we write now. And so sometimes we'll like, instinctually, if we're working on a verse or like the beat for the verse, we'll like gravitate towards the obvious thing you hear first. And sometimes that's the right answer because it's your instinct. But then other times you're like, well, how let's put more time into this. Let's not rush this, and then you scroll through your samples on Splice, or you try something on the keyboard and you're like, this is a really weird thing, but I like it, and it's like really unexpected. I would never think to do this, but I just did it on accident maybe. And then you're like, well, let's see where this goes. And you go down that rabbit hole. And that's how I get in that situation I was saying earlier, where like you do the same thing over and over and expect different results. Music's the one thing where you actually might get a different result. And like this song we just were working on, it went through like 4 versions, like 2 different tempos, 3 different keys, like 2 different genres.
Right.
Like it had the whole different instrumental foundation behind it for a second. We could not hack the chorus. So we like picked it apart, like rebuilt it. And then finally we're like, this is it. This is where it's supposed to go. And maybe that's another reason why I'm like a little jaded about people that say like, oh yeah, like their best records, they were on drugs. Cause like maybe they write music different. Maybe they're like proficient at piano and they can just do that and sing. But like the way I make music is so insane and backwards. Like I produce while I'm writing. Like sometimes I mix a little bit while I'm writing, and like, I'll do a vocal over just a piano part and then build a whole new song around the vocal, or I'll make like a cool beat that helps me like come up with a different swagger or cadence for a vocal part, and then rebuild it again because I couldn't have come up with that vocal part without that instrumental behind it.
Yeah.
But I don't want that instrumental, I don't want to be a rapper. So I don't know, it's really strange, and it's like
But it's how you work.
yeah, it's like a laboratory or something.
But
like
also it's like it's unique
yeah.
to you because that's how you work. And I think that like it's cool. I agree with you too. I mean, look, we go back to the artist that's on drugs. Like I think it's weird when anyone references an artist that they want to be as big as that died early from drugs.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you'll be as you'll be bigger than
Cobain or
right. And you're like, well, he died at a young age
Yeah.
and he killed himself, and his music is incredible, but also like, I wonder if I'd rather have an incredible musical legacy or to be alive and
Trent Reznor.
And like, that's the thing is that's a great example of someone who I think has like come in, built a career and has a life that I think is really interesting
And overcame darkness.
and overcame the darkness of whatever probably he went through. And I have no idea.
Right.
I don't know him personally, but I'm sure. But that also like has a life and is alive and has a family, I think. And like
that to me is inspiring.
That's inspiring.
Because
It's
people
like
want to
survive
romanticize. I feel like especially now, people want to romanticize like dying young or
it's
like
it's terrible.
And it's like you can tap into like the harder parts of life or tragedy or your mind or your experience without becoming it. You know what I mean? Or like trying to memorialize yourself in real time.
Yeah.
Like you can
absolutely. and to me, it has nothing to do with art. Nothing to do with art. Yeah. That this person who's suffering and ends up dying, overdosing, killing themselves, I feel extreme pain for them, and I think they needed help. Yeah. Versus, I don't ever it's weird. I never like look at it and go, "Wow, what an amazing story." I think the music's amazing, and then oh my God, that's tragic. They died so young. Yeah. I don't ever put the two together as like this romantic, like wow,
or like they affected like the art somehow attributed to that. Like yeah, I never want to romanticize that or anything.
And I think it's smart. I think it's like also super. I also think that your guys' music is likely super therapeutic for a lot of people that love your band. From my experience of your fans, if they feel like pretty thoughtful people that are going through similar experiences, like dealing with anxiety, depression, dealing with the pain of life, right? And that's probably why I relate to your music when I hear a little bit about where you come from. And I know you come from Virginia, which isn't far from where I'm from.
Yeah.
So it's a similar place in the world. So I kind of can visualize a little bit like where you're from. And I think of like the things you went through. It's probably the chord that it strikes in me is that same
Right.
kind of like lifelong relationship I'll always have with depression, anxiety, the painful parts of life, losing people, anything that I've been through. You're singing about stuff that I think people, and I actually think everyone can relate to that, but I think the people that tend to like your music and the people that I feel like your fans, I can kind of relate to them. They feel similar.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all into similar things. I feel like it's people who have a relationship with the suffering and the painful part of life, but that want to understand it and work through it.
Well, we have such an interesting demographic because I feel like we have older people that really like our music.
Yeah.
We have like really young people that really like our music, like international, obviously, like different cultures and countries that really like our music. So
what's your favorite place you think to go so far?
That's tricky. I loved Japan.
Japan's awesome.
I'd love to go back there again. It was been too long.
US is really good for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, like logistically and
it's hard to
if we're not talking about traveling and stuff, the US is my favorite to tour, you know,
right.
'Cause it's like it's the easiest where we know it. And then like in Europe it's like, oh, it's after 9 p.m. I guess we're not eating dinner. Like it's so much harder over there when you're not from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think probably like Japan I'd want to go back to. But yeah, like our demographic is like it's so vastly different. And that's like another thing that bums me out when I do tap in or try to see like what fans are saying, and like you think about the internet, and it's like putting all these different people from different generations and religious background, political backgrounds, cultures in this like waiting room together to like coexist. Like, what do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah,
there's gonna be friction and fusion. And I never like want our music to be responsible for that. So like that's one of the reasons I'm always like writing music about like social media and stuff, because I like, again, like I said earlier, I feel like people are inherently good, and I like want more people to acknowledge that and like give each other a break sometimes, because I'm just like so tired of negativity. Like I experience so much negativity in my own mind. I don't want to like turn to something that's supposed to be a distraction or an entertainment and find more of it, whether that's like the internet or the news or something, you know. And I don't know. I'm going on a tangent there.
The message is interesting because the music is so
like our music should bring people together.
I think it does.
Yeah.
What you're saying is like, I wish people would be nice to one another.
Yeah. Like at our shows,
it hurts me.
At our shows, like this past tour we just did, it was like mostly Midwest stuff, and you could tell like there was a couple nights actually, I had to stop the set multiple times because people kept getting in like, I don't know if it was fights or arguments or what. Like I couldn't tell. I didn't see what happened, but there's just like people clashing, and I can tell they're like two different types of people. You know, you've got this like
I think
blue collar dude, and then like a small teenager, and they're like arguing, and I'm like,
I get it, but I think that your music can, you know, a lot of people relate to your music, lots of different people, because I actually think that you're touching on things that most people don't in their music. I think your music is aggressive. I think there's a part of your music that brings out a angry side that I don't get to express, which is nice when I listen to it when I'm running or for me, it motivates me. But at the end of the day, if I'm driving and I'm alone and I'm frustrated or I'm feeling a certain way, I can put your record on. I can also put it on when I'm feeling motivated, when I'm feeling excited, energized, because your music touches on different emotions. I think there's something about you, the way you express yourself in your songs, that people relate to. And the truth is, most people don't get to express anger or excitement in the world. We get criticized or we get shut down if we're angry.
that bums me out.
And if we're excited.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
I think about like how confidence has played a role in me as an artist, and just not even as an artist, as a person, you know, and like how I feel like a lot of people at a certain point in their youth, I read something about this so long ago. It was from like a book, and it was like it was like on Tumblr or something crazy, like so far back and so deep in the cut, and I cannot remember where it was, but it essentially was like at some point in your adolescence, you get like knocked down from your enthusiasm, from your passion.
Yep.
Whether that's like something, a sport you're into playing that you failed at in an instance, or making music, or your sexuality, even like
Right.
something that's in your core that you're passionate about,
Something
that you
important
feel,
to
and
you.
someone, when you're at a very vulnerable age, takes it from you,
Yep.
or crushes it, or crushes your enthusiasm, and then from that point on, you're afraid to show it.
Yeah, some people can never recover from that.
Yeah.
Some people it was taken or it was beaten down so viciously. Sometimes you're just knocked down, you can get back up.
And you don't get the opportunity to get back. Some people don't get that opportunity.
Some people can
you know?
never
Or
recover,
you're
and a lot
or
of
you're
people.
poor. You know what I mean? Or you're like you don't have the access to the education to get that opportunity to realize that's what happened to me. How do I recover from this and find that confidence again, or find that passion again? And
But
yeah,
think
it's just
about
sad,
it,
man.
Think about the person, right? That person. There's multiple examples, I'm sure, people out there that could relate to that, but that don't get to go to therapy every week,
Right.
that don't get to work through, to go back and look at experiences from the past that have shaped their present experience, right? So how I look at the reality around me right now, my past shaped that somehow.
Yeah.
But I can go back and I can work on those injuries. Someone knocked me down. Think about the person that is at your show, whether it's the older guy or the younger kid. And this music is the only outlet they have at that time to express a bunch of emotions they don't quite understand, or maybe they're like, I don't know why I'm so pissed off all the time. Well, I'll tell you why. I don't either, but it's likely something that happened to you a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that you haven't worked on, and that you haven't even addressed, and you haven't even come to terms with. Likely, if you're depressed or you're pissed off all the time, it's likely something from the past. It's not the present. So whatever you think the problem is in the present, that's not it. Go back, do some excavating, figure out what happened, and you'll likely get to the root cause of your present affliction.
And it's like the back pain thing. And like, it's a cycle though. Like, some people just get used to it. They don't even realize that it's a problem, that like that's what's holding them back, maybe in their job or in their hobby or whatever.
Because
they don't even know why they are or feel the way they feel.
Because even 100%, but even in now where we have, I think, normalized the conversation or the idea that we all have mental health.
Yeah.
We all have it. We all have our mental health. We have to look after it. But it's still not quite in some places, and certainly some people, coming to terms with the idea that you need to go and do some work. You're like, it's normal for me to go like, man, I still have some work to do on that.
Yeah.
Like, I still haven't gotten all the way there yet. Like, my self-esteem or my self-love, I'm still working on that part. I got to do some work on it, right? And I go to therapy and I do my work, and some of it, sometimes I progress faster and sometimes I progress slower.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to deal with that today. But there are people who've not even started the work, and they're older and they haven't had the opportunity. Either maybe it's financial, or maybe it's just not accepted in
Right. And their upbringing, their
their
family.
family's like, what's that mean? It means you have a problem with us? And you're like,
means
nah.
you're a pussy.
Yeah, or whatever, whatever the conclusion is drawn on,
Yeah.
like the guy who may be a like outwardly looking tough guy who is expected to just deal with it and not be depressed.
Now put that guy on the internet anonymously.
And put him on anonymously and like
You know?
let him loose, or the person who hasn't been given a lot of support around their physical health. Maybe they have a weight problems, or maybe they have a bad relationship with exercise, whatever it is. Like, and then instead of people lifting them up, supporting them, and being like these loving, supportive people, they're expected to just toughen up and just not talk about it and just get on with life and be, or they're just a failure. That person's just a failure, and so they'll never get it together. But all of it stems from our relationship we have with ourselves, which is formed in those early years with the people who knock us down or lift us up. And I was lucky because I had a brother who always lifted me up. So even though I didn't have as much support early on from like parental figures who were always supporting me, they really weren't. They couldn't I don't think they had the toolbox to deal with what they were dealing with in their failed relationship and all the turmoil they had. My mom and dad, I think they had so much turmoil all the time. They didn't have a lot to give the kids, but the kids, we all supported each other, and we ended up with this great support group that we're still super close. And I think about, like, when I think about who are the reason, like, I had the confidence to go into the world and try to do something. Oh, my brothers and my sister. Just like always like, yeah, you can do it. But like lots of people don't have that person,
Right. And the idea that those people are in the crowd at our show,
and they are.
that's never lost on me.
Yeah.
That to me has become so important, and like remembering that when it comes to taking the show serious, taking my body serious, which inevitably affects me taking the show serious, or
Yep.
my mental health serious, which affects me taking the show serious, or my job serious.
And what you're saying in the songs.
And remembering that those people are there, like for example, stopping the show because of a disagreement. I don't want to like assume what happened and then be the reason, like maybe this guy's been fighting for his sobriety for 2 years, and then like I take a side and I like clown on him on stage, and then he's viral on TikTok the next day, and then I'm the reason that he drinks that drink again or something. You know, it's such an extreme hypothetical.
Yeah, no, that's not extreme though, dude.
But it's like,
I think you're right. I think that not enough people think about the power they have up there,
Yeah.
and actually just accept it.
Right.
I'm not saying like you need to like walk around. Like, I know it's a weird word to use, but when you're on stage, you have influence.
Yeah.
And you have some power.
Absolutely.
And if you're not thoughtful like that, which most people I think aren't,
Yeah.
I think they make it about them.
Oh, it's easy to get lost in that. You know, I think the same thing. I think it just happened with like Haley Williams at a show, and then she like got the full story or something afterwards. I could be misremembering it, and then like she apologized to the people that she yelled at in the crowd. I don't really fully remember what happened or if it was justified. Whatever, who's to say what's justified? But
we've all done it.
But that's a thought I've had as like a performer when I have to stop a show over a disagreement, and two people are yelling what happened, and the other two people are yelling what happened, and they want me to pick a side or something, and
No sides.
That's not me. That's not my job. It's not my job to like be the reason you're like getting clowned on the internet for 2 days by a bunch of people that you don't know. You know what I mean? Because like that sucks.
It's responsible, dude.
Yeah.
It's being responsible.
And it's like, it's not hard, dude. I've seen like front men try to be like hard on stage
No.
or like kicking someone out of the show. It's like, dude, you're safe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's when you're up there, you have control, power, and influence.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this with someone the other day because they had to deal with some person that was basically taking advantage of their position. It was like someone at a desk who was in control of something happening or not. And it felt like they were really relishing that position in that moment of like being able to punish this other person. I think that like what we have to understand about human nature and accept is that we are always going to come in contact with people that have some form of power over us in some position along the way. So whether it's at the DMV or it's at the airport or wherever we're going, we're moving through checkpoints, and we're dealing with people at those checkpoints that have some power and the ability to slow us down or speed us up. Mm-hmm. And that human nature is sometimes to abuse power.
Right.
And I think it comes from feeling powerless in other areas of your life, which is where if I behave that way, if I ever get into a moment like, why did I just fucking say that to that guy? Or why did I do that? An obvious moment where I feel like if I try to analyze, do I ever power trip in any position that I may have some power over even over your fucking kids or whatever.
Right.
Like, I try to analyze myself because I don't want to do that. But I know that if we feel powerless in other areas of our life, we will abuse the power we have in other areas.
Right.
So balance, like we keep talking about balance.
Yeah.
Balance is key. And on stage, it's the same thing. You have some power and influence up there that you have to respect. It can be abused.
Yeah.
And it's a drug. You can use it like a drug. You can also use it for good things. You can help people. And that's when I think the energy is directed at the right thing. It's helpful. When it's directed at the wrong thing, it's not helpful. But I think that's interesting you say that, because I've never actually heard anyone talk about that. And it's so real. And most people, I think.
Well, I feel like it's a new thing, like with the way the culture is evolving in social media. Like I do. I deviate even a little bit from the show, and it's like an event. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like I, from like a marketing standpoint, that's good. You
Yeah.
know, like, but at the same time, like I'm so interested in like people and like life and like philosophy and shit like that that
Yeah.
I feel like I'm almost always like observing a human, like a social experiment in my head
You kind of are
sometimes.
though.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
so strange, like being in this entity or whatever you want to call it that is a band or that is Bad Omens and like kind of seeing this like little micro community form and take place and start their own little, you know, factions and stuff. And it's like it's just wild, man. Like it's just music. It's just songs, bro.
What's your favorite part about Bad Omens right now?
Current like right now, like today,
Yeah.
making music.
Making music.
Because we have 3 months off technically. We're back out at the end of August, I think. And this 3 months window of like this summer has just been like the light at the end of the tunnel for the past like 8 or 9 months
Right.
because we've just been touring so much and we haven't had enough time at home in between tours for me to write and also
Live a little.
focus or prepare for the next tour because every tour like takes so much preparation, especially overseas. And again, like I'm still very hands on and all that stuff. So this summer we just have more time and I've been like full of creative energy and writing so much stuff, some weird stuff, some stuff I'll probably never use, like stuff for new music for our band. And yeah, I'm just like I just satisfied, just happy with myself and what I'm making. And I like historically it's been writing has been hard for me. And I have like if I have a whole writing day in the studio and I don't make anything I like, I feel like the whole day was wasted or like I don't deserve this or I lost it, whatever it was or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
If I'm not writing a hit every day like anyone has ever done that, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm getting better at identifying now that it's happened like album after album that that's just not how it works. And
That's not how it
there's going to
works.
be days where you just write fucking ass some like lame song, you know?
And so, but sometimes you gotta trust like the universal process
Yeah.
of like I needed to do that whatever for that day to get to the next day where I might be writing something
Yeah.
that I really feel is important. But maybe the thing that I don't think is that important actually ends up being more important than I think.
Hmm.
And so I can't judge it at the time. You know what you know, but at the end of the day, like the process of making art and feeling like when to lean in, when to lean out, like when to stop, when to go and clear your mind and go. You know what? I'm going to go for 3 days and go sit on the beach for 3 days and just
Yeah.
stare into nothing.
Well, I used to equate it to losing.
Yeah.
If I didn't write like a super cool song in one
Right.
day, I would felt like I lost. So now I'm just like getting better at uh, not feeling that way, like just
Yeah.
accepting the L, I guess, at the end of the day that I didn't write a dope song and just being like, try again tomorrow,
Didn't catch a fish.
you know? And like maybe whatever I started today will manifest into that. And that's happened so many times now that's why I'm trying to remember that and like remind myself like this is how art is made. Like the other night I saw a movie I really loved, Past Lives. It's like a Korean like romance thing. And I went home and like just wrote like almost movie score that for it, like just motions movie inspired instrumentally. And then I started singing over it. And I was like, this was not supposed to have vocals. I was just like writing like a piece, you know? And then like wrote like this amazing hook that I loved. And so I like again I rebuilt the instrumental to feel less like score and more like a song I'd want to hear under the vocals. And then, you know, it's turned into an awesome song. But that night I felt like I lost because I just wrote some like dumb 30-second instrumental thing after I saw a movie and I was like, I'm never gonna use this.
Who knows?
And then the next day I was like, I'm gonna try singing over this. And it just for whatever reason the chords and the melody just inspired me to write my own melody. And because I write really vocal heavy, like that's kind of my focus is making a really amazing lyric or melody.
That's why they're good.
And then rebuilding around under that.
Yep, because I think that's the most important part, and less people give that the credit it deserves. But
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a band that's like really guitar centered or instrumental or something, I feel like if you're a rock band or you're trying to write hooks, like the vocal is so important. That's why we like to engineer and produce too. Like, you know, because I can do 100 takes and pick my favorite one or build my favorite one, you know?
I think that's just incredible. I think Bad Omens is one of the most interesting bands of our time. I think you guys are. I think you guys are doing The
That's
most,
crazy.
I think you're making really relevant records that are accessible.
Yeah.
Like I love your records because they have all the stuff I want to hear on a record.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel pretentious. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard, but it's not basic. It's got depth. It's got skill. You can hear the musicianship in the record. You can hear the ability in the record. You can hear the songwriting ability in the record, but it's still, I still need a chorus on a song. I need a big chorus that I can sing along to.
Yeah.
And with with things I can relate to. So you guys are hitting all the things that I love in music, but I also think that like the way you guys operate is just different from most bands. And I think that you guys are a great example of what's possible for bands to achieve at a high level, but also like you built all that on your own. And I think that that's a perfect example of like what's possible for a band. And I'm like excited for the next record. I think it's going to be even better.
There's a very small window where I was like, how are we going to beat this? Cause like the Death of Peace of Mind, like it felt so perfect when it was finished. And like, obviously everyone loved it and it's done really well. I guess it's still doing well. There's still people finding out about the band.
It's still doing well, but like, I get it.
To me, it feels like we're at the end of the cycle because it's I've heard it for like years now.
It's new to a lot of people and you'll have to get used to that idea that like, there's a whole new wave of people that like your band for the first time.
Yeah.
That's going to continue to happen. But that's why I get so excited because there's going to be an appetite for the next record. That's really exciting. And I think you guys are going to be hungry to make it.
We are. Yeah. Even if it takes a long time, like I have to love it just like I did with the Death of Peace of Mind, you know, and
however long that takes.
I love it. If it takes me 3 years to figure it out until I love it, or 4 years even, like that's how long they're going to wait.
Or two, maybe.
Or 2. Maybe 1.5.
I'm just, I'm excited for that. I wouldn't say I've played out the record, but I've played it so much. And I still listen to it. But I'm excited now when I get to hear that whole record, when I get to put that record on and just like, I think it's going to be great. I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Great.
It's awesome talking.
All right, Noah.
Yep.
Thanks, bro.
No bad times, I don't want no bad.
All right, thank you for checking out Artist Friendly. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time.
This car only take premium gas, I love my engine. Yeah, I'm not smoking on gas, I'm smoking on piff, that's my kind. I don't want no bad times.